I am going to call the meeting to order. This is the Maple Run Unified School District Board of Directors meeting. Today is June 2nd, 2021. The time is 6:03 p.m. We are holding this meeting via Zoom. I want to mention that we have a visitor section on our agenda. It's item 4 on the agenda. And I just want to mention that any visitor that wishes to speak will get the opportunity to speak. If we're going to time it to a 2-minute limit per individual per topic. So if you have more than one topic, you get 2 minutes per topic if there happens to be more than one topic. And at this point,
here's Susan.
Good.
Susan's here.
Thank you. Susan's here, so we have all 10 members of the board present. Thank you. So as far as the agenda review, I do want to add an item to the agenda that's very simple. It's just the representatives to graduation. I believe we have BFA for sure, and perhaps city that we need to send a board rep to. So I'd like to add that under item, I guess, 7C, board reps to graduation. And so I need a motion to approve the agenda as modified.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Any abstentions? There are none. Motion carries. Please join me for a pledge of allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all. Okay, so we are at the visitor section. There are a number of people here. I'm not sure they all wish to speak, but if one wishes to speak, they should type their name in the chat. And I did already see Steve Larosa wants to speak to the board. So people are now typing in. Okay, so we'll take you in the order that you come. And as I mentioned, 2 minutes per topic. We've had a request, which I don't think anyone has a problem with, for when you're speaking, if you could just also state your name and what's, city, town, Fairfield, what area you're you're a constituent of, that would be helpful for us. So I guess the first person would be Steve Larosa. You have to turn your you have to unmute. How quickly we forget, Steve.
I know. Good to see everyone. Thank you. If I could, I do have 2 topics. I've timed my comments at 2 minutes and 45 seconds for the 2. Is that okay?
Sure.
Well,
it's under 4 minutes, so go for it.
All right. Thank you. I was unable to attend the previous board meeting of May 19, but did watch it when it became available online. As you may recall, at the start of this meeting, 3 members of our community gave public testimony. They were very frank in their criticism of Superintendent Dirth. And while there were some differences in the focus of their concerns, all 3 were critical of Kevin's pro-SRO stance, and especially of a statement to the press that on the SRO issue, his was a closed mind. After the board meeting came out of executive session and the vote was taken on the non-union wage increase, Board Chair Nilda Ganella French asked if there were any other business to come before the board. It was at this point that board member Peter Delorier spoke up and said, "Dr. Dirth, I thought you did a great job holding your tongue during that session of misinformation. Very well done." Nilda paused, then said, "Oh, I have so much to say. I better shut my mouth," and then asked if there were any other comments. At this point, board member Katie Messier spoke up and said, "I just want to second what my dad said, Dr. Dirth. I don't know how you did it. You did a great job, I think. Kudos to you." Now, I can't be sure, of course, but I imagine the session of misinformation that Peter and Kata were referring to was the critical testimony that had been given by the three speakers who had addressed the board at the start of the session, as they were the only people to speak that night. I understand the responsibilities and challenges that a board member must deal with. Having to decide the fate of the SRO program will be no easy task. Sentiments regarding this issue are deeply held, passionately debated, and emotions can run high when listening to testimony one may not agree with. Having said that, I would urge everyone to be respectful of the public as they speak from their experiences and state their views. I feel that calling out members of our community and labeling their concerns as a session of misinformation is not helpful to the process. A basic respect for public commentary is crucial to an honest and open debate on any issue that comes before a board. I'm very sorry if this comes across as a lecture, but I do hope going forward, everyone can try to be a bit more understanding of people's views. We would all do well to keep an open mind. Finally, I see that on tonight's agenda, item 7A, new business, brainstorm board retreat agenda. If I may, I would like to suggest that the board consider including in their brainstorming the following. 1, a discussion on board etiquette and conduct, both at board meetings as well as outside meetings to curtail any perception of individual attempts to interfere with or influence study committees as they try to fulfill their mandates. And lastly, number 2, a discussion regarding board vote apportionment. With Fairfield students now representing close to 15% of the MRUSD population, I believe we should consider allowing our Fairfield board members a full vote each. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. I believe the next person is Ryer Erickson. Ryer.
Thank you, Ryer Erickson, City, St. Albans City. I first wanted to start by thanking St. Albans City School for the STEAM event they put on last week. It was an absolutely wonderful event. My kids both really loved it, and it was really wonderful to meet future Superintendent Bill Kimball there and have a discussion with him. Just a little one-on-one time was nice. So I think that was a great event, and it was a really nice way to kind of bring the community back to the school a little bit, as much as they could. So thank you for that. Just for a second topic, I just want to say that tonight I'm speaking on this topic out of disappointment. After you as a board came out of the executive session last meeting, comments were made by both Mr. Delorier and Ms. Messier that were in direct relation to comments that I and others made during public comment. Now, I'm not disappointed that those comments denigrated me or fellow public commenters, nor am I surprised. I've been publicly denigrated by both these board members unapologetically in the past. And I'm not disappointed that these comments appear to be in direct violation of the board's public comment policy that this board discussed ad nauseum at your meeting on April 7th. Nor am I disappointed that these comments were not shut down and ruled out of order by the chair. I am disappointed that I've attended meeting after meeting and asked at so many of them for the board to invest in anti-bias and anti-racism training. One reason I've done this is precisely because of the denigrating comments I've suffered. Not once has the board spoke up or broken the rules to address those requests, and rightfully so. But the rule was broken to defend the superintendent, and the rule was broken to basically call people making salient points a session of misinformation, i.e. liars. I know for my part, nothing I said was misinformation, nothing I said was false, and nothing I said was a lie. I won't ask for a policy, I wouldn't expect one, and I guarantee I won't get one. And what I wanted to do was use the remainder of my time to ask once again to invest in anti-bias and anti-racism training district-wide. I'm happy to see that at least one part of my request is on the agenda for the future, and I hope to see it administered to the entire district, and I hope to see it followed up by anti-racism training. No parent should have to be, no parent should be able to say a school board member told them to leave the community, questioned their commitment to their child's safety, or referred to them as a monster. This district has far to go, and it won't get there with inaction. Thank you.
Thank you. Next person on the list is Jen Williamson.
After nearly a year of writing letters, attending board meetings, equity committee meetings, SRO committee meetings, campaigning, imploring, and demanding that our children, kids in marginalized groups be given equitable consideration, I'm exhausted. But like any parent, I will continue to do the work needed to make our community more hospitable for kids like mine. That is, kids who are more likely to be targeted by SROs. My fellow citizens and I have given you facts, data, articles, opinions, research, and anecdotes that all point to SROs being more harmful to kids like mine, who are neurodivergent and or disabled, or to kids like my friends who are BIPOC or LGBTQ. And we do not deny that there are stories of kids that are not like the horror stories we have heard of our own Maple Run students have experienced. But the fact is that there are horror stories. As you prepare for the June 16th meeting, I ask the board members to consider that not all children are like their own. Not all children have the privilege of being able to blend in and go unnoticed by people with guns, tasers, handcuffs, and ingrained reactions to always be wary of whatever characteristics their personal biases deem potentially suspicious. Lastly, although implementing the SRO program may have been well-intentioned, we cannot ignore the fact that local, state, and nationwide statistics show that kids are being harmed. Intent versus impact. The impact on our kids is harmful to their mental and physical well-being. Please consider these facts as you immerse yourself in the data the SRO committee has been debating, and especially when you vote as board members for the best interest of all students. Thank you.
Thank you. It doesn't look like there's anyone else listed unless I'm missing someone. Brenda, anyone else?
I don't see anybody else.
Okay. So I'm going to close the visitor section of the agenda and move on. The next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. There are 3 items on it: minutes from May 19th, staff changes, and the media. You have attachments for all of those. Does anyone need to pull anything out for discussion? Hearing none, we're going to adopt the consent agenda. Okay, I'm going to move on to the next item on the agenda, which is labeled old business. So this is survey result for the COVID-related trauma. So Bill Kimball and his team are going to be presenting these survey results. But before that, I just wanted to go on record as apologizing to all for not taking control of this discussion at the last meeting and polling the whole board to determine whether it was the will of the whole board to have this report come before us. As it turns out, Bill and Kevin's teams were adamant that they really want to give this report. And there are 3 reasons for why they want to give this report. One of them is that it's a very important topic. And the second is they want to ensure that the board and the public have correct information. And thirdly, they want to ensure that when one of the teams speaks, they speak for the whole team. So after giving you that message, I'd like to turn it over to Bill Kimball and he'll take us through his team's presentation.
Thanks, Nilda. A lot of it, I got to thank the whole team that's here tonight. You won't hear from everybody. You'll hear from the principals, Alexis Hoyt and Stephanie Ripley will be giving pieces of this. I'm mainly introducing it. You'll hear from all of them. And we'll give you an idea of how we got to the data conclusions that we had for the needs assessment for the recovery plan required by the Agency of Education. So I'm going to present my screen and hopefully everyone will be able to see everyone as they speak. I think Zoom will bring up their images for you. So let me just get that going. You're all seeing that right now? Looks good. Thanks, Nilda. So why are we presenting this information? Nilda gave you a little bit of an outline, but we wanted to acknowledge there's a significant SEL concerns with our students. We've had that. We've known that's been happening, and that was there before COVID. What COVID has done is put a light on that, but it's work that the Maple Run School District has been doing for many years, and we'll get into that. These concerns are present, as I said, and The numbers are not significantly higher. There are places that are in certain schools, you may see them higher than they were, and it may be significant. Remember, significant is a judgment word. It's not a statistical measurement. Also, as I alluded to in my introduction, the board has already begun developing a mental health, social emotional learning system for Maple Run. You were actually leaders in the state in doing this. It's one of the first, and it's one of the things that attracted to me to come to this district was that we started with Alexis' position, and the board has, through its budgetary process and grants, funded several other positions to bring up a social emotional learning and well-being system. And Alexis is going to talk a lot more about that. So tonight's objectives are to give you a detailed look at the data we have been using for the envisioning work, and to update the board about the work Maple Run's been doing and will continue to do. We've been involved in this work for several years. And I think that will be highlighted by all the folks that will be presenting. So for all those of you who are presenting, you're just gonna have to give me a cue because I'm the one advancing the slides. And I'm gonna turn it over to Alexis Hoyt. Oh no, sorry, to Stephanie. Sorry, Steph.
That's okay.
I couldn't see the slides coming in order.
No, I totally understand. So I just wanted to give people sort of an idea of how preschool operates when it comes to social and emotional learning. And that is really our focus for our youngest students. And I wanted to bring people's attention to our early childhood mission that talks about developmentally appropriate opportunities, and that growth in social and emotional learning is really part of our work, really what we're paying close attention to as we're bringing kids into the building and starting to build a relationship with them. Our program uses a measure called the Devereaux Early Childhood Assessment, which is also known as the EDECA. We take pre and post measures of students, and we look at factors that impact resiliency. So we're really looking at helping our students build those protective factors that allow them to bounce back when something potentially traumatic happens in their life. As we know, people deal with stress in different ways, but one thing that research has shown with preschool is that children who have a preschool experience show more resiliency than adults. So this measure allows us to look at our students and then even design curriculum and fill in gaps for kids. So that is a measure that we use on all incoming students, and our teachers are very skilled in building activities and opportunities for students to build their resiliency as we move forward. So thank you.
Thanks, Steph. So now to Alexis.
Thanks, Bill. So for K-12, the data was gathered in a more informal way. So in our K-8 schools, for every student, the team was asked, does the teacher have concerns in any of these 4 domains: behavior, social, emotional, engagement, and academics? And those domains were primarily driven by the AOE recovery guidance that we received. And then teams were asked, were any of these concerns new since COVID for each student? And then in the high school, so for grades 9 through 12, the counselors, dean of students, and assistant principals went through the student list and answered the same questions while also looking at proficiency data for each student. All of this data was then combined with attendance data from both this current year and the previous year. And it's important just to point out and note that this data is from March 27th of this year. So anything after March 27th is not reflected in these graphs. So to provide school teams with a little more context and guidance, as a leadership team, we got together and gave some examples of what would be considered behavior versus social emotional learning, versus engagement, and then academics. And we really tried to sift out that behaviors are those things that we can see. So those things that are observable, whereas social emotional could be things that are maybe not as communicated as directly by students, or could be more internal struggles that students are facing. And then engagement, we really looked at the whole scope of engagement in the sense of truancy and attendance, but also engagement in terms of accessing supports and participating. So this is the first graph, and it shows each school as well as the district as a whole. You'll notice that the first column is behavior, the second column is social emotional, the third column is engagement, and the fourth column is academics. And what you can see across all of our schools, academics is the highest area of concern, followed by engagement in 3 out of 4 of our schools. And then social emotional follows after engagement, and then behavior is the lowest area of concern. Then, like I said previously, we also combine this with attendance data. So this graph is solely looking at attendance. Again, this is excused and unexcused absences together. And I want to clarify the x-axis at the bottom. So the first column is between 0 and 5 absences. The second one is 6 to 10. And the third one is 11 to 15, and then 16 to 20, 21 to 25, and then 25 or higher. What I also did is, because this is reflecting the number of students, I did some percentages and compared that to the total number of students in the district. So for the 0 to 5 absences, that's about 54%. And then it goes down to 15%, 8%, 5%, 4%, and then 10% of the district. And to kind of, what are we doing, or what have we already done to use this data moving forward? Like Bill already said, in fiscal year 19, the school district identified the need for a more intensive wrap of social emotional supports for students. So that support structure was created in not only my position, but it also created a student support team at the district level, which includes the special ed director, the early childhood director, myself, the student support director, and our curriculum director. And we'll see at the bottom that there's also been more behavioral supports added in each building and at the schools as well. We have developed a district committee that is going to focus on social emotional learning, mental health, restorative practices, and equity. This committee is representative of pre-K-12 and has representation from every building throughout our district. And that committee will be working together through a multi-year process. And starting in the summer of this summer, 2021, one of our main SEL focuses is we're going to be developing a pre-K-12 aligned competency guide. Similar to we have standards of practice for academics, we're going to develop standards of practice for social emotional learning for all of our students across the district. And we're going to support that with a professional development plan for staff, so they get the appropriate training and support around SEL. At the same time, we're going to be working on a multi-year implementation plan for restorative practices, again, in all of our schools across the district, and that will also be supported by a PD plan for all staff. We will continue and expand training, not only for all staff members around resilience, trauma, equity, and mental health, but we will continue that for students. We have done a great job around increasing mental health training for students, particularly at the high school level. And we have already done a significant amount of re-envisioning around not only our behavioral system, but our MTSS and educational support team systems across the district. And we will continue to focus on those systems moving forward.
Thanks,
And
Elaine.
I will pass it to Brett, I think, right, Bill?
Yeah, I think that's the next one. Yep. So
Thank you, Alexis. Can everyone hear me, I hope?
Yep.
Okay, great. So what Alexis was speaking of, I think is the most important overall area that I think we are really well off, that Bill led a multi-year plan of which under his guidance, we're able to focus on areas, work on our professional development, because every single school in the world actually is going to have work to do, knowing the pandemic affected every single area in the world for the first time ever. So we're no different. It's just our students, we believe, are better off in our system. Even though it's not ideal, we wanted full-time education, we wanted full-time engagement. We can see the numbers there on the graph that we do have concerns. And the very nature of what I said, which is not having students in every single day, not having a full, vibrant engagement after school, means that those areas that we're going to work on, and that's all under the guidance of the multi-year plan that I was just referring to. So it's very difficult, as people can probably imagine, to try to gauge exactly where students are social, emotionally, and all that. But we're actually excited about the work. We've already started it many months ago in terms of getting ready for the coming year. So if we take a look at the next chart, we can see things that we've already done. We've hired a behavior consultant. The family engagement specialist is just recently hired, and we're excited to have those people on board. We took a teaching position, and that we've designated more towards social emotional learning for the teaching. We've revamped our multi-tier system of support. That's been worked on all year, started last summer actually. And with that, we are really excited that we have a much better system of seeing which kids need to be identified. We've taken a look at the next section, which connects directly with it, which is tier 1 instruction. So at BFA, we've used professional learning communities on a monthly basis to tackle some of this, which is, what is tier 1 instruction? What does it look like? What does engagement look like? And so faculty have been working hard on that, while also obviously teaching all year. And we have a pretty highly engaged and I think very diverse summer programming options where we can, the students can earn credit while being engaged in really unusual and positive ways that they're going to be out and about in the community. So actually, I'm really looking forward to the work. We've already started, as I mentioned, and we know we have work cut out for us, but pretty exciting having a 3-year plan that we can work within.
Thanks, Brett. I think we're headed over to Heather Ann. Yes.
It's Fairfield time. Hi, everyone. I have some data that shows that about 14% growth in social emotional concerns. And I would say that about 5% of that increase is less than accurate. And the reason for that is when you go through every single spreadsheet and look at every single child that's listed there, and you think about whether the concerns are new or whether they were existing before, sometimes the teachers don't actually know that because they didn't teach the children the year before. So I have about 5% of the social, emotional, and engagement concerns that I believe actually were there before. The teachers just weren't necessarily in the know. Part of the reason for that was that we didn't have a whole lot of mental health supports available in our school until this year. This year, we added a school social worker, which has been amazing. She has a caseload of 12 to 16 students that she can provide counseling for. I've added a 4th day of my school-based clinician, a licensed mental health counselor from NCSS. And my school counselor also sees a caseload of students. So, you know, we this year have the ability to wrap students much more than we ever did before. And I think that that's something that didn't come out of the pandemic, but it came from before. We know that as schools, we are asked to do more and more with children. It's not just teaching them academics anymore. It's about getting them to feel safe and to be in relationship and then to succeed. And so we've always known that we needed more support, and we've been adding that support over time. If you look at the slide that talks about what we have been doing, you can see the social worker and the clinician that I just mentioned. This year, we started a program of learning universal design for learning, which is actually a concept that came from, if you think about like a sidewalk and the notch that's in the corner of a sidewalk to allow a wheelchair to get up onto the sidewalk, that's universal design in an engineering aspect. Universal design for learning is all about figuring out what are the barriers to student learning and how do we overcome those barriers. So instead of seeing the child as being someone who needs help, what we look at instead is what is the instruction that needs to change to give the child access to the curriculum? What are the engagement pieces that we could do better to get kids to care about their academics and to care about school? So that's something that we've done as an entire faculty as a study this year. And then 12 members of the faculty and some central office staff have also gone ahead and taken 2 additional courses in universal design for learning this year. One is universal design for learning and how it relates to social and emotional learning. And the next one is universal design for learning and inclusion, which is how do you teach a classroom of children from every ability level? If it's 5th grade, you've got readers at the 1st grade level and you've got readers at the 12th grade level. And how do you teach that? You can't just spray out information and pray that it sticks, right? You have to do something different, and that's universal design for learning. We've also been focusing on conscious discipline. Conscious discipline is a social and emotional learning program that puts adults first. In other words, you can't help a child to self-regulate or to feel connected if you are not in the right state of mind to be able to bring the child up to where you are. So conscious discipline helps us as adults figure out how we're going to get ourselves under control to be the best adults that we can to help our children problem solve. And by the way, I learned all this because Joan handed me a book when I was the curriculum director, and I couldn't get enough of this. So conscious discipline has been huge for us. Next year, we're going to focus on PBIS again and getting our school-wide systems set into place, restorative practices, responsive classroom, first 6 weeks of school, getting kids ready to come back. We've got our summer of fun programming. We have our weekly behavior, mental health, and academic team meetings every single week to figure out how we're going to wrap kids in support. We've done trainings over the past years on equity literacy, mental health first aid. Alexis did that for us. Resilience with Dr. Joelle Van Lent. And right now we're focusing on social and emotional learning at the end of the school year. So right now we see social emotional learning as being primary to getting kids ready to come back to school. But we have always known that social and emotional learning is the key, and that the mental health issues our children are experiencing are not new, but COVID certainly didn't make them any better.
Thanks, Heather. I think Joan, you're up next.
I am, thank you. So at City, we are seeing pretty much the same thing. Our numbers before COVID, to me, they were a crisis. We had a mental health crisis going on for children, and I don't think it's just in our district. I think it's across the state. If you talk to most principals, they'll tell you that where they've put money in the last 5 years is all into behavior and social supports for students and mental health supports for students. So we don't really have those supports in our communities. It's just not there. It's not robust enough. And schools have been being relied on to do that themselves. And that's what we've been doing for, I'd say, growing over the last 5 years. So when we look at what are we doing, because this wasn't a new crisis for us, it's an ongoing one. We brought conscious discipline in, I'm thinking it was 6 years ago. This year, it was a little hard to do some of our teacher training that we love to do because you kind of have to be together to do it. Next year, we're starting the year with a 2-day refresher for our new teachers and a refresher for our veteran teachers. We also brought in restorative practices. And we did that more with our school counselors and our homeschool coordinator, getting people fully trained to be trainers. So we are ready as we go into the new year to start talking about how that rolls out down to everyone. For next year, we had talked about having an extra behavior person. What we found out this year is we were doing better with behavior. The problem is really supporting our students and families. So we asked to change that from a behavior person to another homeschool coordinator. Our current homeschool coordinator is straight out. We're looking forward to having a second one next year so we can really focus on re-engagement for the few that we have lost over the course of this year. We also have been working, we work with Joelle Van Lent. We took the UDL course, and then we explored social justice. And we took these 3 topics of resiliency, UDL, and social justice. And we met 4 times over the year in really small groups with our teachers and explored the impact that those were going to have on their teaching and learning. And then one of the things that, that Joelle brought out in one of our resiliency trainings is that we've got to stop telling kids that this has been the worst year and the worst thing that ever happened to them, because it isn't. And our students have been amazing, and we need to let them see themselves for what they've accomplished this year. So to do that, we set up Resiliency Day, and it was the anniversary of when we had to shut down schools. And all of our students in the school made a resiliency museum. And there were some really amazing projects. But one of the kindergarten teachers came up with this little graphic where all of the students made the impossible possible by just folding over the im. And all of a sudden it became possible. And it was just, our goal was to have kids see themselves for the amazing students they've been this year. That, yeah, we went through a pandemic, and you know what? They're better for it. And they've learned a whole bunch because of it. And so we really sort of tried to spin that message so that we could really start looking at what did we do this year and not make it look like this was like the worst thing ever. We also do our weekly MTSS meetings. We've just completed the redesign of our alternative programs to bring more consistency in data collection and to better support student needs. And the other thing we did is we looked at what did we learn this year? Like, how did COVID make learning better? And you might not realize it, but there were 12 things that our teachers listed that they thought made learning better. And we surveyed the students, and most of them, they actually agreed made learning better, and they wanted us to keep as we go forward. So there was an awful lot that we've learned through this, and reflecting back on it, yeah, this has not been the greatest thing in the world, but we have an amazing, resilient staff and amazing, resilient students, and we learned from it. And now we're going to go into our 6 weeks of summer programming focused strictly on engagement and reconnecting with kids. And I think now I pass it on to Angela.
Thanks, John. Angela?
Thank you. And I would say that Satech is in a very similar position that the other schools who have all spoken are in. And when you look at our data, clearly, you know, there was some increase, not a lot. I think the severity, I think as Heather Ann spoke about, is what we've seen. And I think when you look at the graph, you can also have to understand that these areas intertwine. So the part that we were noticing well before COVID was the behavioral and some of the social emotional issues that our students were experiencing, which of course impacted their engagement and their academics. And so we had started actually in the fall of 2019, we were looking to add the NCSS behavior consultant program and a behavior consultant to our staff. And we weren't able to find the personnel until the winter of 2020. And these new staff actually started a few weeks before the shutdown. But this is something that was in the works and something that we really knew that we needed to support our students to be successful social, emotionally, and in the classroom. Another piece that we've added are twice weekly MTSS meetings we break it down because of the size of our school, a K4 and a 5-8 group. And the focus is really on how do we support students that have attendance concerns, social emotional concerns, engagement, academic, any area. And we problem solve, we create plans, make referrals, and do the supports. What came out of that as well is weekly behavior support team meetings. So a smaller group of our behavior specialists and all the behavior staff get together and really focus in and talk about how to support some of the kids with the biggest behaviors. And that's really been helpful the past year and a half. We have throughout the school, even though it's been a different year, we have really tried to focus on the positive, on supporting students, and we continue to use PBIS. And they created the Olympics, and they had just the surveys and fun things that they did around it to try to make it more aligned to what we normally do. So the celebrations and the positive reinforcement, we have really tried to continue, and it's been very well received, and the students and staff have really enjoyed it. Like Joan said, to try to keep some normalcy to things, and also understanding that, yeah, it's been tough, but there's also a silver lining and some good things we're moving forward from this. In terms of what we're focusing on this summer, we have 4 weeks of summer programming planned for students preschool entering kindergarten through 8th grade. And our focus for the summer programs will be really to keep kids connected, engaged, support their social emotional learning, and have some academic fun activities planned. When we start to look at the fall, next fall, we have always been a responsive classroom school as well as the PBIS, and we are planning to do some retraining, kind of revisiting to help us focus on the social emotional piece even further. And then of course in the fall, returning to more literacy and math intervention, and then also our math and literacy coaches to help support the tier 1 instruction in the classrooms, which will help all of those areas. So again, we're very similar to a lot of the other schools and the things that we've done. But like I said, a lot of it was definitely there, before COVID. And I'm glad that we had started working on it, because certainly COVID hasn't made it better. But we have a lot to be thankful for and a lot of positive things happening.
Thanks, Angela. Nilda, we're at the end of our presentation. We'd be glad to take any questions or comments. And if the board has any.
Yeah, please, board, if you have any questions for the team.
And I'm going to turn off the sharing so we can see each other here.
I
Okay.
have a question, Nilda, if that's okay.
Yes,
Can you hear me?
I
I'm
can.
gonna turn my video off, so maybe that will help. But I was just wondering, with the data collection, how was it getting that information from students who were in the virtual academy compared to the in-person? Did you notice any disparities in the data, or was that not enough? Were there not enough numbers? Was N not significant enough to be able to draw any differences with that data?
Alicia, I'll tell you that I didn't look at the virtual academy kids against compared to the other kids. They are in the data set, but we didn't pull them out to do that analysis.
Thanks.
Susan? Need to unmute.
You guys hear me now?
Yep.
So I have a couple of questions. So my first question is about the graphs that were presented, and it looked like prior to COVID and currently, was that the 18-19 school year compared to, or was that the 19-20 compared to 20-21?
So
How'd that work?
we asked teachers, and Alexis chime in here where I go off. we asked teachers if there was a concern previously for each student when they went through and surveyed the students. We didn't have a data collection system for SEL, and that's part of our envisioning work, is that we're putting one in, and Alexis is leading that work. I don't know if you want to speak about that a little bit, Alexis, but just where we're headed and how we collected this data.
Yeah, I mean, I think you summarized it perfectly. I think I started last year, so I don't want to speak prior to last year, but one of the areas of growth for us has always been our data systems, it sounds like. And I think we're moving in the direction of formalizing that a bit more around the area of social emotional learning. So it wasn't really a comparison of a data set from last year. It was more anecdotal from the teachers who know the students really well. And is that a new concern, or has that been present prior to this year?
So the numbers on the graph that went for, let's say, 25% to 30%, 35%, did that mean that was an increase in the number of students that had concerns?
So that's the increase of what it showed prior. If it was in the prior concern, and say they had a prior concern in behavior, that was, I'm just making up numbers here, so I don't have a graph in front of me. Say that was 15%. And then if it was a new concern, and it was 22%. And that's how they answered it.
So that doesn't necessarily tell us the number of students.
Well, it gives us a percentage, and we could divide it by the total number of students in each school. We actually did it by every individual student. We just converted it over to percentages.
Okay, and then my other question is about academics. It said that the concern was if they slipped below grade level. So
Yep.
In the high school setting, what does that look like? Was that if they were, sorry.
So Brett or Sarah, do you want to talk about how you did the analysis of the proficiency data to say they were below?
I'm not sure if Heather or Sarah wanted to comment on that to take a look. We did it over such a great length of time. Matt chimed in and the teachers did too. So I don't know if they want to speak with specificity on that.
I know Sarah was the one that was leading that up.
So I'm going to use an example. If my daughter, who was previously, I'm going to say her proficiency points were typically 3.5 or above. And if she was if everything dropped to just a 3.0 or a 2.5, would that trigger a concern? But because a 2.5 is considered, proficient enough, it wouldn't consider us concern. I'm just trying to get a better understanding of that.
So for an academic concern K-8, it was a year behind. I believe, and Sarah hasn't jumped in. I know Sarah was leading this. We were looking for students that were in risk of failure. It wasn't a certain cut number or drop in proficiency point for that course.
I believe, Heather Fitzgibbon speaking, that we looked at the number of credit denied. I don't remember exactly what the cutoff was or how we, what those significant data points were, whether it was 1 credit denied was a concern, 2 credit denied, but we were looking at credits denied.
And Susan, we can get you a more detailed answer to that question.
Okay, yeah, because I'm just wondering, it sounds like it wouldn't necessarily catch the kids that are doing really, really well prior to, but are kind of sinking to an okay level, but clearly not at the level they had been performing at prior to.
And that was not our cutoff anywhere pre-K-12. It wasn't that close. It wasn't that fine a detail. If you remember when Alexis showed that slide, I could go back to it, but it was at least 1 academic year behind.
Yeah, well, that's why I asked the question.
No, it's good question.
And I definitely don't want to misspeak because I was not a part of that work, but I am pretty confident it's 3 credits denied or more is the standard that they use. That's the standard that's been used in other work this year at BFA.
So when you say 3 credits denied, does that mean like either a semester-long course or a year-long course that credit was denied?
I would have to defer that to Brett or Heather.
Yeah, I think Susan, to get you more details, we just need to go and we need to talk with Sarah and counselors about exactly how they did that.
Thank you.
Yeah, I hate to misspeak because it's not, yeah, I'd have to look into it to make a clear answer. Thanks.
Okay, I think Grant has a question.
Yeah, you mentioned some objectives at the beginning of the slide, and I kind of lost track of what they were. Could you remind me what those objectives were quickly? And then I think I have a follow-on question.
Our objectives were to, I'm just going right back to the slide, Grant, so I can read them.
Yeah.
Present a detailed look at the data we have been using for envisioning work.
Yep.
And update the board about the work Maple Run has been doing and will continue to do in the area of social emotional learning.
Okay. Do you also have objectives for, where the metrics ought to be? You guys presented a lot of data, with charts showing, typically I want to say 20 to 40%, areas of concern. Do you know where what those numbers would be in sort of a healthier
We don't.
system?
We don't, because we just put this together to gather where our students were at. As Alexis alluded to, we have work to do on our data systems. And
Okay.
so we don't have past data to benchmark off of to make objectives.
Is that in and of itself an objective to create those benchmarks and track those metrics?
The first part is to create the data system to do it. And as we talked about, that's one of the things we've just signed contracts to do that with our envisioning resources that we have.
All right, because I see this being approached as a corrective action in a lot of ways. We acknowledge that there's a problem here and we need to resolve it, quickly. And I think that one of the first steps there needs to be defining, what good looks like, so that we know when we get there and we know when we're done.
Yeah.
I think it was Mr. Blanchard referred to a 3-year plan. I think that was right.
So
yeah, I'm seeing a nod, and that seems like a long time for a corrective action to me.
So I will be the first one to say the work that needs to go in for our envisioning, this is with the recovery plan. It is not an overnight. It's not a 1 year. It's going to be 3 to probably 5 years worth of our work, and will be the work for the supervisory union.
Okay.
And Grant, I'm sorry, if you don't mind saying, even if there was not a pandemic, I believe schools must have a 3 to 5 year plan anyways. So my view is your meaningful school improvement takes 3 to 5 years. So
I think I agree with you. And obviously you're more of an expert on this than I am, certainly. But I feel like there's a difference between general improvement, and if a 3 to 5 year plan is appropriate for general improvement, or for a corrective action if we really are, in sort of a crisis mode or something like that. And so if that can be accelerated, I think that it would make sense to focus on that. And maybe I don't know the board's role in that, other than making sure that you guys have the resources you need to do it.
Yeah, I appreciate that. It is highly focused. Actually, there is the whole social emotional learning, there's engagement, and there's academic. So yeah, it is focused on so-called recovery, but it also sets the targets overall. So there should always be a 3 to 5 year plan, always.
Okay.
Heather Ann, did you have something to add? And then we'll go to John's question. I should be doing this. Sorry.
I wanted to focus for a second on what Grant just said about, speeding up improvements. We can do lots of things overnight, but none of those things would be particularly effective, because what we're dealing with here is professionals who have been doing a career for a long time who need to be trained. And that training has to be sustained and long-term. You can't learn anything in a day-long conference. And additionally, those professionals are working with 25 to 125 individual human beings many of whom are actively resisting everything that we're trying to do as we're trying to do it. And while we're trying to do it, we're also doing that with zero time, because during our school day in high performing school countries like Finland, the teachers teach for about 2 or 3 hours and the rest of their day is collaboration and planning. Our teachers teach for about 85% of their day, and for the 40 minutes that they have their planning period, they're busily running about the building, attending IEP meetings, trying to confer with special educators, and occasionally waiting in line at a photocopy. So there's the triple issues of human change takes a super long time, right? And then changing an institution with 2,600 human beings in it, again, who are some actively avoiding what we're trying to do, and then trying to make sure that we're doing it deliberately, planfully, and intentionally so that the changes that we do make will actually stick. That is all the work of schools, and anyone who studies school leadership will tell you, you can do anything you want overnight and get a quick fix, but it's not going to last.
Right.
And we have to be thinking globally and about changes that are going to make a lasting difference for all of our students after a year-long pandemic. So, you know, the sense of urgency, I totally get it, but the reality of trying to move our organization in a real and deliberate way is just going to take years, unfortunately. And those who are impatient like me, and perhaps you, don't love that. It's hard. It's really hard.
Thank you.
Katie, I think
That's
Katie.
a great segue for my question, Heather Ann, because that was exactly what I was wondering, is have you been able to, Wednesdays have been a gift this year and have allowed people to really do some assessment work, right? And professional learning communities and evaluating and whatnot. Do you feel like you have enough time built into your schedules for next year to, or are you also looking at your schedules in terms of being creative to come up with enough time to be able to do the work that you have carefully, plotted out to do for next year?
I'm happy to take that one, but Bill, feel free to jump in. The re-envisioning committee has really been trying to figure out how to best leverage the recovery funds that we're going to get from the federal government in order to give us the time to do the hard work. So one of the things that we've looked at is it possible to get full-time building-based substitute teachers with some of that money for a period of time so that we can get building leaders in literacy out of the building and into meetings where they can create our curriculum, our vertically and horizontally, I did that backwards, aligned curriculum, and not have to wait as long, right? So we're hoping to be able to get literacy leaders together twice a month with substitute teachers in-house, math leaders twice a month, social studies, science, the subject areas, right? Get those curricula written, get common local assessments done. This is all in this beautiful like re-envisioning plan that Bill's been leading us through. So, with the Wednesdays this year, that has been an absolute blessing in terms of being able to collaborate with each other. And I think next year, because we'll never have that blessing again. I think that what we are able to do is figure out how to make time to get some of the most important work done. Yeah. So I do think we've really been thinking hard about that and tried to find a way to problem solve it.
And I'll add in, Heather Ann, that if you remember 2 years ago, the district, we decided to have an early release on Fridays for teachers to do work. We're looking at that again, and I think we'll probably be bringing you something next meeting. I just can't say that's solid because actually Heather Ann's been leading that work for us. We all lead different parts of the leadership team. She's been leading that. And we're wanting to make sure we have all our I's dotted and T's crossed before we let the board know about that. But we do need that work time. And that collaboration time is the foundation for making change within a system. It's not outside consultants. It's not some outside expert. You have to build the expertise in-house. And next year, it will be a lot of building our in-house expertise before we go to the whole staff. Luckily, with restorative practices, we're a lot closer. Conscious discipline. We've talked about a lot of the programs that support this, but we need to really build our leaders and feed them and care for them and make sure that they can help us all grow. And that's what the real focus of next year is.
Thank you.
Katie, do you still have a question?
No, I think it got answered. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else have questions?
No, just not a question, just a comment. I'm really proud of our leadership. I think that their positive attitude during this whole thing is very, very important to the staff and to the students. And I think that their tact is the right one.
Thank you. All right. I appreciate all the discussion and all the time that you folks put into this presentation. A lot of detail, a lot of data. If the board members come up with questions along the way, they can communicate with Bill and he can circle around with responses to questions. It would be great, Bill, if people do send questions to you, if you can respond to all of us, so we just all get that information in addition to the person asking the question.
Be glad to.
Thank you. Again, if there are no further questions, I'm going to move on the agenda. Okay. We're up to new business. So we have a brainstorming process that we're going to go through to come up with some support for the board retreat agenda. But just as a little aside, we got to come up with a date for this board retreat. And I feel really strongly, as does Bill and Kevin also, that everybody needs to be able to come. So we need to work so that every board member can attend this retreat. I mentioned before, we have an outside facilitator, Mike, is that his first name? Deweese, that we're trying to schedule. So I think there was, you have the dates in front of you, but I think we had a couple dates in August, the first couple of weeks of August. And I think that was when we had one person that was not able to attend. Katie, I'm going to put you on the spot. I think that was you. Are you away the first 2 weeks of August?
My husband's going out to get my book right now. I don't have it on me, so just give me 1 second.
Okay, well, everybody else get your books out because we got to try to nail this. And I think if I remember what we talked about earlier, Bill, we had one date that worked for everyone except one person we needed to hear from, and we not heard from Al.
Yeah, we hadn't heard from Al, Alicia, and Joanna. They weren't in the doodle poll. So what we have by the doodle poll is, do you just want me to read off the dates, Nilda?
Yes.
And all but one,
yeah,
which was August 5th, August 9th, August 11th.
Those are the dates that we had majority of people could come and
yeah, everybody but Katie, and we need Katie to look at her. I see Joanna saying the 5th.
Yeah, I tried, but the Google wouldn't, it was outdated and it wouldn't accept it.
Sorry.
Yeah, I was outside of the window. I was away on a vacation.
What's the day again?
The 5th, the 9th, or the 11th, but it sounds like Alicia, you're away.
No, I'm away on the 9th and the 11th, but I'm here on the 5th.
So you're on the 5th and Joanna's on the 5th?
I'm here on the 5th.
Okay.
Al, are you available on the 5th?
I'm available any day.
Okay. Is there any board member that is not available on the 5th? We're looking at something like 5:30 to 8:30, probably local. The two places that we're looking at right now is the Hardeck space. I don't know what they're calling it.
Lodge.
And then we're looking at the Abbey in Sheldon, but that's kind of farther away. If we can get the Hardeck place, that would be cool. I haven't been to it yet. I've only seen it from the outside. So, but we need the date first and then we can figure out where we have it. Absolute last resort places is going to be the central office conference center, but we at least do have that if we had to. Okay, so yes.
Just anybody thought of the People's Trust Company up at their Franklin West? They have a beautiful conference room on the second floor.
Brenda's on the line, so she'll listen. She'll take that down as an option. I think, people that are in the catering business and restaurant business are having trouble finding help, actually. So I'm trying to put together a high school reunion 20 years. Can you believe it? Anyway, and we're having trouble finding caterers because nobody's catering. So so we're going to leave that up to the administrators to figure out. But it looks like August 5th. So put it in your books. You're busy August 5th from, happy hour all the way through, ready to go to bed. Okay. All right, Bill, we're going to do the brainstorm session. Bill has a tool he's going to take us through. I'm going to turn it over to Bill so you can teach us your tool.
Yep. First off, I just wanted to say, Nilda, so I'll check in with Mike tomorrow and see if there's any issue with that date. But he was pretty flexible in an email from 2 days ago.
Thank you. Thank you.
He was being pretty helpful. So I'm going to try to show a movie over this. I don't know if it's going to work, but we're going to use a tool called Thought Exchange. And it's a tool that we're going to be using more and more. We're using it as a way for engagement. And it's a tool that allows for confidential expression of ideas and then confidential ranking of the ideas. And you can use it. It has some really cool tools that we won't get into tonight. I'll show you some of how you prioritize things. But what you'll do is you're going to get a question that states, what thoughts and ideas do you have for topics to be discussed at the board's retreat and or throughout the upcoming year? And you'll put one idea and then you can submit another idea and you can do as many as you want. And then after you're done submitting ideas, and I'll help prompt you through it, you will turn over to ranking. And you don't know whose ideas unless it's the one you submitted because you know what you wrote, how you're ranking it. And then it gives us what the total ranking is all together. And it's a way. And one of the things that I found is usually there's many different ways to say the same thought or idea. So some theming has to be done, and that takes an hour or two. So we wouldn't do that tonight, but we could look at some of the best pieces and get some ideas. Mike DeWeese has used this tool, and it was kind of uncanny when I was talking with him. I actually told him we were going to do this because Nilda and I had talked. And he said, well, have you done this? I've been using it with other boards. So they know what their topics are that they'd like to talk about. So you're going to need a web browser or a smartphone. I'm going to give you a URL link. If you have a smartphone and want to use the QR codes, the nice little rectangle codes that have dots, you can scan it in. It'll take you right to the website to where to input it. I'm going to show a 1-minute movie that kind of gives what I just said, but to cement it a little bit more. And then I'll show you how to use this. This is for the board members to go into and post. We're not doing it with the administrators or guests. This is really for yourselves so that we can shape a retreat that addresses the topics that you'd like to address. And then Nilda, maybe at the next meeting, we can give a quick report of some of what we saw from this.
Okay.
It's not like I forgot to ask you about that.
Sounds good.
We're talking about retreat. Okay. So I am going to share my screen, and I need you to tell me if you can hear this. So let me do that. Share. Okay, you should all be able to see that. And I am going to play this. So hopefully this will play.
Meet Thought Exchange, the software platform that allows you to anonymously share and rate ideas around the topics that matter the most to you. Every exchange starts with an open-ended question that your exchange leader will share with you through a unique link. With Thought Exchange, you have the opportunity to offer as much input as you want. Best of all, your responses are confidential, so you can feel free to be as candid as you like. You can also view other people's ideas and rate them. All participants can see which of the group's ideas have risen to the top. And so that you're never left out of the loop, we made sure that you can participate in exchanges from any device, so you can join the discussion wherever and whenever is most convenient for you. Thought Exchange. Join the discussion today and help your leaders make better decisions for tomorrow.
So we've used this in 2 or 3 groups, and it's been really good. So we're going to use it with you folks. We're going to use it to get some feedback on our envisioning plan as well. But let me bring this up for you. You're seeing all this piece right now, but I'm going to sorry, went to the wrong thing. And I'm going to give us 5 minutes. It may take a little longer than that, and that's okay. Okay. And actually, let's do the scrolling. I'm going to present this. So you see the little QR code. So if you want to use a smartphone, you can scan in that QR code, and it'll take you to the tjoin.com. That's the URL. And you have to put in the numbers 831-597-257. And you don't have to put in the dashes. I see there's 2 people in there right now. And you'll be answering the question, what thoughts and ideas do you have for topics to be discussed at the board's retreat and or throughout the upcoming year? We've got 3 of you guys in, 3 of the members. So it's tejoin.com.
Where do you type that?
You type that in a URL browser. Thank you for asking. It's just
if you use the QR code, you don't have to type anything.
Right.
I used the QR code, but it didn't
so
come
you're
up.
good.
It didn't take you there, Nilda, with the QR code?
Oh, wait, it did.
Yeah, and then you should just be able to put in the numbers. I see we
didn't
got
have to
5
put the
folks
numbers in.
And then you can start giving thoughts and ideas. If you're in there, you can start doing that. I see 1 thought's been given. That's great. We've got 6 folks in. It's tjoin.com, 831-597-257. We have 9 folks in and 2 thoughts.
You haven't got me in.
Keep working on it, Al. Oh, now we got 10. I got them all in.
Can you see me?
I can't tell who it is, Al. I can just tell they're participants in.
Yeah, see, all I've got is a white screen.
Right, it should come up with a bubble in the middle, and it puts up the question, and you can put in a thought. It looks like a cartoon bubble.
Well, it tells me your meeting will start in a few seconds.
It should be coming. It should be coming. So keep thinking about anything, and when you get a thought, no thought is a bad thought. They're all good. This is really a brainstorming activity. I see there's 8 of them up there. When you can go rank and come back and give new thoughts if you'd like. And when you rank, don't give everything 5 stars. Spread it out, 1 through 5 stars. It's really, it works a lot better if I see there's 9 thoughts up there. I'm going to start the timer now, Nilda, just because we were trying to give people time to get in. So we'll start the 5 minutes. And just give some thoughts, you can rate them, you can go back and forth.
Hey,
I
Bill.
can't see them right now because I'm in this mode. Yes.
I'm sorry, I think Al still needs help because I went on there to see if I could get on. So
Oh,
I think
okay.
I'm the 10th person.
Oh,
I
okay.
didn't add anything. Sorry.
Yeah, good. That's all right. Al, are you doing it with your iPad?
No, I'm on with the Chromebook.
Oh, okay. Huh. Is it still a white screen for you, or is it?
Yeah, still white screen.
Can you hit refresh up top? You know, the little circle that refreshes the web page?
I'm going to call somebody to come in and help me. I can't see it. I'm sorry.
Okay, all right.
So if I enter a comment and ask me why I think it's important, if I don't answer that question and I just hit submit, I just get a bunch of flashing stuff.
Yeah, you might need to put something in there, but you should be, I've always put a little bit of why you think it's important. And I see we have 14 thoughts right now and 11 ratings. So you guys are getting there. Usually what happens is with 14 thoughts, if everyone rated all of them, it would be about 140 ratings. So because there's 10 of you, or there's 9 of you, so 9 times the thoughts. So what I learned is that I try to get to about 60-70% rated. Is usually the time when you cut off this. So we got plenty of time.
Conference room, I'm in trouble. Yep, bye-bye.
So it's good. We got about 15 thoughts, we're 29, 28, 29 ratings.
What should be up now, Bill?
There should be, when you go in that T join, it is a white background and then it's got like a subtle gray around it. It's like a cartoon character speech bubble. And in there it says, it says the question, what thoughts and ideas do you have for topics to be discussed at the board's retreat and or throughout the upcoming year?
Yes.
But you could log out of it and try again by going to tjoin.com and putting in that number. You guys are doing great. We've got almost 50 ratings on 18 thoughts. Keep it going.
I don't know how to get him back in the meeting. Oh no, we could hear it. Oh no, we can't even hear him.
So Al, you could I would start over by going to tejoin.com and putting in the number that's on my screen of 831-597-257. You guys are doing great. We have 19 thoughts, 66 ratings.
What if we go to
Almost to 70.
That's only brings me back to the agenda.
I'm gonna add a little more time.
Do I get to rate stuff?
Yeah, once you're done, it should say, you can say go to ratings.
If you're using the app, there's a drop down at the menu. It says share with a down arrow.
Yep.
Thanks, Grant.
Click that and then it'll be a star.
What's that number again, Bill?
831-597-257.
That's already up on my screen.
Well, that's because you're looking at what I'm projecting when I'm sharing the screen right now. You need to be in a web browser, so you can put in the tjoin.com, and then when you go there, I'll ask you for that number.
Al, do a new tab at the top.
Yeah. And when you have the new tab, I can read you the URL address again.
Yeah, we're trying.
That's okay.
Okay, TEjoin.
TEjoin.com. And then does it have a space for the code? Usually it's like a text box.
Yep.
And that code is 831-597-257. 257. So we have almost 115 ratings for 19 thoughts. We're doing great.
This is what you want, so share your thoughts.
Yeah.
Write thoughts shared by others, discover thoughts important to the group.
So what do I want to do? Share my thoughts?
You could share thoughts or you could go right to the ratings, Al. It's up to you.
You want to share thoughts if you want to go to write thoughts shared by others.
Go to the other one, second one.
Maya?
I do type right in there.
You could share your thought here. You're just gonna type something if you want to share your thought. I don't know why it didn't bring up.
I can't type though. So,
Hold on, let me see.
How you doing, Al?
Here, there, what we shared to you and other people.
okay, where can I,
So then you're just gonna click on this, how many stars you want to give.
how many stars?
I think so.
Do I click on the stars before I type my thing in?
You type, if you type it in first, and then the stars will be afterwards.
Okay.
You'll do that. You type in your ideas. You can type in your list of ideas first, and then you can go rate them.
Share
With
your
clicking on the stars.
Read it.
Basic parliamentary procedure.
We would have had to do that on the screen. We skipped that one, remember? We wanted to just go straight to rate.
We're doing great, folks. We got about 130 ratings for 20. That's averaging almost 7.
Go back.
Yeah. Okay, so you want to share your thought. So we're going to put basic. Parliamentary.
So when you get to the end, you see like a synopsis of the ratings.
Yeah.
And
What's been done so far? Yeah.
it seems like if I'm reading it right, everything's rating out of 3.
Well, we can take a look at that, Nilda. I want to give Al a little bit of time, but I'll follow your lead on this too, Nilda, because I can pull out of what I'm at right now and show the dashboard that I see from some of the analytics.
Did you get my idea?
I don't know, Al, because I don't know who submits them. I can't tell who does it. I can tell you there's 0.2 thoughts up here, so it's increased thoughts since you've been in there, Al. The ideas there's more thoughts than there were before. So it probably did.
The system is designed to analyze the data for you, right?
Yep.
Okay, so do you want to put another thought? Or why it's stay away from the
So Bill, what are those numbers like 150 and whatever?
So what we do is every thought, there's 20 thoughts and there's 10 of you, right? So if everyone rated a thought, there would be 10 ratings. So with there being 23 thoughts and almost 150 ratings, you try to wait till you have about 60 to 70% of ratings versus thoughts. And you try to look, participation for the number of thoughts you have. So what I was doing is dividing like 150 ratings by 20, and that's a little over 7, which means we're doing really well for all the ratings. People have rated most of the thoughts. Al, have you got a chance to rate?
We're working on it.
Wait a sec.
Okay.
He picked a friend that doesn't really know how to use computers.
Oh, it looks like it's working.
I'm getting there. I'm just a little low.
It was probably the instructor's teaching level.
It is. It's the
It's Al.
instructor.
All right.
So just
All right. So
hit submit. submit your thoughts. Yeah.
I see more thoughts are coming, so Al, you must be doing some things.
You have to put something here first.
Oh.
So once you've sort of ended your process, you don't have the opportunity to go in and comment on the new thoughts?
You can, Nilda, if you go to the top and pick where it says star in the drop-down area, or where it says discover or complete at the top, you can click on that little drop-down arrow and pick, and you go back to star, and as new ones come up, you can add.
Oh, thank you.
Push. No, can't answer.
I know, I just muted it. I just muted it. It's fine. He'll stop. Okay.
You type in there the importance of executive session. Importance of executive session.
Al, it looks like you're rating now because the ratings are going up.
I'm just rating the last.
Yep, no, take your time. We're almost there. Tell me when you're there and we'll.
Now we should be able to.
Okay.
Now we're going to go to the ratings. Okay. So now we're at the ratings part. So you're going to read this and you're going to rate it.
What's it say?
Board participation in large programs that do not require extensive board action, e.g. SEL, COVID recovery, etc. Degree of required involvement is often unclear. So racial biases. All school leaders should work for this.
Third one. Yeah.
Make sure all members understand the process works and outcomes are representative of BIRD as a whole.
What's the third one mean?
So 5 would be you completely agree. 5's the most, so 1's the least, 5's the most. So 3 would be right in the middle.
3 is important.
3 would, like, this would be 0 importance and 5 would be very, very important. So 3 is like,
Come back. What's this one?
Propose new programs and improvements to keep district, especially high school, competitive within state.
4. What'd you rate? Can you go back?
You can go back. I was hoping we could get to a point there if you've rated most of them. You mean go back in your ratings or go back in your thoughts?
No, go back in the rating. I didn't realize there was.
He didn't rate something as significant as he would like to have.
Oh, I'm not sure that you can do that. I'd have to go look at it. I've never had that question out, but I'm still kind of a novice at this one.
Well, you'll know the one.
Yeah.
When you can see it.
Yeah.
That I rated higher.
I think you actually can go back because I was able to go back and change some of mine. If you go back, yeah, on the list, if you go to star.
Yeah.
I think I was able to change some.
Good. Thanks, Susan.
After looking at all of them.
Yeah.
Oh, so we have to go through all the rest of them.
Yeah.
Okay, so this one's there.
Nilda, we've got about 225 ratings with 27 thoughts, which is a great ratio. What do you think for time?
Al, how much more time do you need to complete your process?
Oh, just a couple more minutes.
Okay, let's let Al finish since he's got his able assistant with him. We want to make sure he gets it done.
Yeah.
Bill, at the end is that complete exchange. Do we click on that?
Yeah, you can get out of it if you want. Well, like I said to Nilda earlier, we'll do a report at the next meeting. I think unless Nilda, you want to take more time for this, but we could do a report.
No, I think you can do a little bit of thematic.
Yeah, I'll do the theming and bring it back.
Right. I mean, I think we can all look at the, if we look at the exchange component.
Yeah, you can see some of it. It's just the dashboard has some higher level tools.
Right.
I'm going to stop sharing. Then we'll just let that be, and Al can tell us when he's all set.
I just went through it.
Thank you, Al.
And you can thank my assistant.
Yeah.
Kelly.
All right.
Well, thank you all for taking the time to do that. Bill, you want to just tell us what the next steps are for this?
So the next step is I'm just going to theme it and bring it back to the board. You have access to all the comments. And then that will be able to kind of we'll say at the next meeting a little bit about what we want for topics. Since we're not until the 5th of August, we have a little time to work. You and I are going to meet with Mike DeWeese to have him develop a facilitation process and a training process for the board to discuss these topics and have a little learning. And that's kind of the plan.
So that was kind of fun. I think I would do better doing it again sometime.
It always helps, and I think the administrators would tell you the same thing. They've been through it a couple of times, and once you start to get used to it, it's easier.
Oh, Joanna, is everything okay? So that I have to say, that's not a message you see in a chat very often.
Oh no.
Yeah, it's a bummer. I don't know. They're out there. They're trying to figure it out.
Right. Okay. All right, Bill.
We'll see.
So we'll wait for our next steps. Thank you all for doing that. We have next item on the agenda is 7B. It's the extracurricular co-curricular guidelines. This is an action item, and I'm looking for a motion for approval of the extracurricular and co-curricular guidelines for FY22, including advancing all positions one step. Did I hear you say, Al, that you made that motion?
I did.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Discussion. Bill's got this. Bill?
Yeah, and Martha, you're going to need to help me out a little on this one. Martha and I have been teaming on this. I think in our belief, Martha is right, it's been 2 or 3 years since people have been advanced a step. And some years there's been a little added to the index, and we felt that it was best to just advance everyone one step in the co-curricular guidelines. Right. Thank you.
Al, did you have a question?
I did. After going over everything, is Leanne with us?
I believe she is.
Leanne, are there no longer any of the youth groups?
Al, she's just coming in now. She had kicked off. So you might want to ask again.
Thanks, Brenda.
Lisa might be able to answer that as well.
Al, can you ask the question again? I think she stepped off for a sec.
After going over and reviewing the groups and all, I noticed that there's one of the tech center groups in there. And in the past, there's always been the youth groups within the group. So I'm wondering if there's any youth groups available.
Al, this is Lisa. I can chime in, and so will my dog. She's barking in the background. But we do have youth groups. We still have our CTSOs, our Career and Technical Student Organizations, and that is Skills USA. And this year we didn't run DECA because we just didn't have any interest. So we will be offering that next year.
Yeah, that's not what I'm asking.
Oh, what are you asking?
Are they not? Why isn't they, or why aren't they within the group?
I guess I don't understand your question. Leanne is back on now.
If you were offering Skills USA would be in there.
Are you referring, Al, to the extra duty guidelines? I'm sorry, I got kicked off my internet, but I'm back on. Is that the agenda item?
It's the extracurricular and co-curricular guidelines, yes.
Curricular grouping. There is no vocational youth group. And if Skills USA is still youth group, they should be considered within.
Al, they are there. They are there. They're on the page. There's no page number. It's the second to the last page is where Skills USA is, and the ones that you're looking for. It's under the co-curricular grouping, not the extracurricular. So it's on the second to the last page.
It may take me a little longer to get there.
So obviously, if the program isn't in place right now because there's no interest, we're not paying someone to
Correct.
co-curricular it.
This is a guideline, and if we do have the programs running, we use this to determine their pay. But
Got
if
it.
there's no program running, we don't pay anybody.
Got it. So Al, did you
Yeah.
locate what you were
Page
unable to find, Al?
My thing is screwed up. Excuse me. Goofed up.
But they are in there, Al.
They are Skills USA.
Yes,
is it?
yes, yes.
Okay. Any other questions
I-
related to this? You ready to take a vote? All in favor of the motion to for approval of the extracurricular and co-curricular guidelines for FY22, including advancing all positions one step, signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Any abstention? Motion carries unanimously.
Wait, I need to abstain
Uh,
as I coach occasionally.
Okay, so it's 9-0-1 abstention. Do I have to
Point of
take a
order.
roll?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, okay. Jack,
Aye.
Al,
Aye.
Grant, I know you're abstaining. Alicia,
Abstaining.
Aye.
Peter,
Aye.
Nina. I think Nina said aye.
Yep.
Sorry, my-
Joanna,
Aye.
Katie,
Aye.
Susan,
Aye.
Nilda, aye. Thank you. That's a 9-0-1 vote. All right. Item that I added to the agenda was new business item C, board reps to graduation. So typically we have board representation to the BFA graduation. Joanna has expressed a desire to be one of the reps for BFA. She has a daughter graduating. Anyone else interested in BFA? Okay, and then city school
Could I,
typically.
please?
Who's talking?
Sorry, I have a dog barking, but it's Alicia. I have a son graduating at City.
At city school? Alicia at city school? You're frozen, so I can't tell if you're nodding or not. Other people are nodding for you that you have a
Yes.
son.
I do. I apologize. Capote heard somebody drive by in a car that he didn't like, apparently. So,
Okay,
yes.
so Alicia City School. Can we accommodate Joanna for BFA and Alicia for City School? And I might show up for BFA. I can't 100% tell you yet.
Yeah, Nilda, can I also request Satech as well? Because I have a daughter graduating 8th grade too.
So I was told that Satech typically doesn't have a board member, do they, or do they not? Angela, can you help me with that? I hate to put you on the spot. Can you accommodate a board member at your graduation?
Oh, of course, absolutely. And often a board member that wanted to be there could help hand out the diplomas. That's totally fine.
Okay, so Nina will be that board member for you. Do you have any
Thanks.
Fairfield people graduating?
I don't have anyone graduating, but I'm more than happy to be in Fairfield.
Who said that? Susan?
Susan.
So Heather Ann, can you accommodate Susan at your graduation?
We're not going to hand diplomas to kids. We're going to put stuff on a table so that they don't have to put masks on and they're just going to walk up. But Susan is always welcome.
Okay. So thank you. I think part of this is to get this on the agenda, brochure, whatever announcements that they have. So BFA will be Joanne for sure, and myself probably. City will be Alicia. Satech will be Nina, and Fairfield will be Susan. Thank you all for your dedication. It's usually quite warm, and this one's going to be outside, so bring your umbrella just in case. And you may even need to bring a chair. I don't know how they're setting that up. We'll have to find that out. Okay, next item on the agenda is other business. We have warrants. I need a motion to approve the warrants, acknowledging that passage of this motion will act as an individual board member's authorization of their signature on these warrants.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition or abstentions? Thank you. Motion carries. Superintendent report. Dr. Durth.
None for this week. No, I've got a bunch of things that I want to talk about next on the 16th. I'd like to just put it all in together.
Okay, thank you. All right, we're at this section of board announcements. I have one just to go on the record again, that the SRO committee will give us their report for the June 16th meeting. It will be in the board packet that goes out to us on Friday, June 11th. It does not become a public document until the board meeting is open. So until we call that meeting to order on June 16th at 6-ish. So I plan to speak to Emma to see if she can work with us and submit the document to Brenda, who can release it when we call the meeting to order. And they can she could release the link to the report in the chat, and also probably, well, that's probably the way to do it, so that all the public that's interested in a copy of the report can get a copy then. Just for your information, when we post the agenda to the meetings at all the designated locations, and when we had that reorg meeting, the only thing that's posted is the agenda. They do not get the attachments. So when it's at City Hall and all the other places, it's just the agenda. So I know that question has come up several times. So I'm just going on the record to clarify it for all. And I'll be communicating with Emma, the facilitator for the SRO program, next week to make sure she's got all that down. Any other board announcements, board? Hearing none, I'm going to move on. Agenda item for future meetings. We have the implicit bias training, recovery update, 5-year plan, IT. We've got the retreat date and agenda. We're going to be able to move some of this stuff off. We're going to be able to move graduation. And then there's the impending in-person meetings when we'll get the okay from the AOE to start that. I did take a couple of notes down from our visitors, anti-bias training and anti-racism training, which we can add to the pack of things to look at in the future. Any other items for future meetings that people want to add to the list? I'm Joanna.
Yeah, not a future item, but one thing that Grant had asked about before is if there was any information about like our larger community, meaning Franklin County or the state, and just one document that's really great and has been going on since like, I don't know, probably mid-90s. It's called the Youth Risk Behavior Survey. And the Youth Risk Behavior Survey is a great document that asks students all sorts of questions every 2 years. Questions about social emotional items, mental health, and you can get the information for a school district you can get it for the county, and then you can look at it for the state of Vermont, but you can also look at it, look at other states as well. So it's just good information to get. And I also know that in Franklin County, they did a youth project. Beth Crane did that. Alicia, I don't know if you have any information about that. But I know that Franklin Northeast, I believe, and another school from maybe Rutland as well, that put in that polled students and asked students a bunch of mental health questions this year and put that information out there. That is also something that I could put a link to and put out there to the board. So other information, other data that's been collected.
Thank you. I actually remember when that youth risk behavior survey came out, my kids were in the age group that would have been taking them, but it was actually controversial. And some of the parents were like, I can't believe they're asking our kids if they ever took drugs and all of that kind of stuff. So it's just an interesting evolution of what, 10, 15 years will do. Anyway, my editorial comment. Any other items, board announcements, items, anything otherwise, any further business for the board? Hearing none, I'm going to call this meeting adjourned. Thank you all for your time. It's a longer than usual meeting, but I think we got a lot done, so that was really important.